Welcome to AFL Uncensored. I'm your host, Teej Johannesson, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Omari Fraser. Omari, this is our first morning episode. We had to cater to some players doing some stuff, and so hopefully this will go okay. Hopefully we're as sharp as I think we normally are. Have you watched the XFL?
Yes, I have. I watched a few of the highlights. I like to catch the highlights because they chunk them up in 10 minutes, but I've really been impressed with what they've put out, and I'm really liking what I'm seeing so far.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I kind of you hear this stuff all the time, like, oh, great, another football league. And I was like, oh, there was nothing else on, and I think it was last Saturday, and I just started watching. I was like, man, like, they're doing some really cool stuff with the kickoff is whack, but like it's kind of cool at the same time. You're like, wow, that's actually kind of neat. And then they've got really intimate access to play calls and the challenges is cool. Like you can challenge everything. Like you can challenge if you think a call should have been called and when it wasn't. And I think that's kind of cool. Obviously it's limited. You can't just be challenging all day, but they got some cool stuff. And I think when I was watching it, I was kind of like, this is the kind of stuff that I think the AFL should be doing. Like, playing around with different rules of football and different ways to make the game maybe safer, but also more fun and more entertaining. And we kind of have all that power. So I was like, wow, there's some interesting ideas, and I think it's worth watching. There's some good talent in that league. Obviously, Josh Gordon, we've all heard, has been having a pretty good season. You got AJ McCarron as a quarterback there, and so it's actually pretty good football as well.
Yeah, and it's very different, which is exciting to see. I know the kickoff, that being one that was like quite unique to see because it's more geared to safety, and I guess it leaves more opportunity for the returner. So I guess that's a win. It's a win on the player side, maybe like for people who want traditional football, a little different. But I really, again, the play
calling,
the players, how you can go for 3 points after you score. So
yeah. It's funny because that word traditional gets thrown around a lot. And I think in all sports, baseball deals with that a lot. You get these so-called traditionalists who are just like so married to the way the game used to be. And that's not how my brain works. I feel like the best things in the world are constantly advancing. And I think tradition holds things back from growth. And I think that's a problem, again, that we see in the AFL is some of the old guard really enjoys the way that it's been, and that's fine. Like it's worked to a point, but I think transitioning into newer, more exciting things is the way to go about most things in life. So
yeah. Because I always know there's always like rivalries and this and that, and teams don't like each other, but it's all because like it's funny because like you have a case of that, but new players that come in are like, oh, like I'm here for the football. Like I don't know this rivalry that we're talking about. Like they're just guys across the field playing the game. There's no real rivalry. It's just like they want to play, I want to play. We're here to compete, have fun, and enjoy from there. So I definitely see that relation to us here.
Yeah, and speaking of rivalries, today's podcast has a bunch of Omari's rivals on it, actually. So we are speaking with 4 members of the Airdrie Irish. We're going to do the Irish season preview. And of course, as always, we'll talk to some of these guys about some individual stuff because, again, this podcast is really meant to open up the AFL, but also get everyone to know the players they're playing against and what they're about. And I think that's important. So first off, we've got Anton, and Anton is the head coach of the Irish. And Anton, we're going to start with you, man. Like, go ahead and share your football story, kind of what brought you to the AFL, where you're at now, and the journey in between.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having all of us here. I think mine's a little different where how I started football. I actually started quite late. I used to be a basketball kid growing up. And I went to St. Francis High School down in Calgary, and I was there for basketball. And then the coaches pulled me aside and said, "Hey, are you playing football?" I was like, I didn't plan on it. Next day, I got dragged to a tryout, and so started playing defensive end at first. And my first game ever playing football, I got my first sack against one of our rivals, Henry Wisewood, which was fantastic. And I started to fall in love with the game. Anyone that knows me is once I see something that can be be better or how I can improve in some areas, I definitely just kind of fall in love with it and, give it to the absolute best of what it can do. So I played my high school season, and at first, actually, with the other players that I played with, I wasn't expecting to get a college offer. To be honest with you, I thought my career was done after high school. But playing some top tier teams, whether it's Bone S or Notre Dame, and I had some very good games. I ended up having a couple offers to U of A, UBC, Concordia out east. But I decided to stick home. And Coach Nill was a big part of that. Definitely what he was about. Put me towards the Dinos. And I played there from about 2010 to about 2015. Had a really good run, I think, for those teams. Just unfortunately, we just didn't have a chance to win a Vanier Cup. So that was really my playing days. And then what brought me to the AFL actually was one of my former teammates, Tyler Langley, reached out to me and said, "Hey, like I'm playing in the Alberta Football League," and I was like, "There's a football league outside of football, like outside of this."
We hear that story a lot.
Yeah, we do. Like, absolutely. And so I came out to a tryout and I met some of the Irish players, and I just love the game, and playing with Tyler. He's a good teammate of mine. We were pretty close. I said, you know what, I'll play around for a couple seasons. So I played from 2016 to 2019. I did partially tear my LCL during my university days. I was able to manage it, but that's kind of why I hung him up after the 2019 season, because it was just a little too much.
Yeah. So what kind of led you into the coaching aspect? Like what was your kind of spark to be like, I want to take on the Irish? And I know you've been a big part of building that team from, essentially being kind of, I don't want to say like laughing.
We can say it, man.
Yeah.
Like
you started off as kind of the laughing stock of the league, like literally the butt of a lot of jokes but as the years have gone on, and especially since you've taken over, it's really built up. So what was kind of your driving passion to do that? And what do you think has been kind of the biggest reason for the success of the Irish?
Yeah, great question. So I'd probably say that I like the camaraderie that the guys had here. I think you set off the episode perfectly, where we football is a big camaraderie thing, and there's this old thing of like tradition and whatnot. And I'm a big tradition guy. However, I always like the advancements of things, and I saw a lot of things that it's the right concept, but I think it just needs to be modernized. And so just before the COVID year, when I hung them up, James Baldwin actually, he reached out to me and he said, like, we still need you as part of the program. And football has been such a big aspect of my life. It's gotten me through a lot of different things, and et cetera. And, I just couldn't leave the guys. I just couldn't say, hey, sorry, no, this is not for me. But I also still need the game in my life. It's a very good balancing act for the life I already live, which is already busy and chaotic in corporate finance. So I decided, you know what, I'll take it on. I coach already at the high school level here in Calgary. And I just decided, you know what, this is my first opportunity to be a head coach. I've always been an associate or assistant, but this is the first time to take the reins. So I wanted to take on the challenge, but it wasn't for the challenge. It was more for the players, and to also push myself to say, what are my abilities? What's the limit? How can I help, turn this program from, literally, use your words, Teej, from the laughing stock of the league to something that we can compete. And, so far we've been able to do a lot of amazing things. I've been a small part of that. I really, as you kind of interview the rest of our players here, it's really been the players buying into the program, and a lot of, thanks goes to them for believing in myself.
Yeah, and I know Omari's got some questions for you later in the podcast too, and we'll talk on that. But that's really, that's really neat for me. I've always, I think having strong teams across the league is great. And I've seen, showing up to play you guys last year, and you guys had like 40 or 50 guys. It's just really good to see people buying in, and you can see that. And it's unfortunate you had some really key injuries last year going up to the final, which kind of deflated your chances there when you lose your starting quarterback and running back. But it's a really good job there. Moving on, let's go with you, Josh. Give me your football story and coming from junior to the AFL and kind of what brought you here.
Yeah, for sure. So I started my football journey in 2009. So I'm going into year 15 playing football, period. I played for the Calgary Golden Hawks for a couple of years. They merged with the Calgary Broncos, made the Cyclones. I played there for a couple of years. Broncos throughout until high school, and then played at Father Lacombe. We merged with Bishop McNally to create MCLA. Won a city championship there, undefeated year. My grade 12 year wasn't great. Decided to go to the Colts. Was on the team for 4 years. I played 4 snaps in 4 years, so it was kind of a rough go. I thought it was done after that.
Let me just interrupt you there, Josh. So,
Yeah.
because I think that I didn't know that, and I think that's really cool. So, and I think a lot of young kids listening need to really focus on that point. Even though you said it wasn't cool, you stuck around for 4 years, even though you only had 4 snaps, and I think that's commendable. I think most people end up quitting, so I think that's an important message to send to young people who look. I know because I coach a lot of kids. I know there's a lot of kids that I coach that listen to this podcast, which is awesome. But I think that's important. So really good on you. Can you quickly just touch on kind of what your motivation was to just kind of stick that out?
Yeah. So I thought going into my later years that I would end up being a starter. You know, there were a lot of guys that were really good players that were leaving, that were aging out, and I was like, sweet, I'll get my go. But then there were just some guys who had a little bit more talent than me come in, and they got looked at a little bit more than I did, which, you know, after leaving the program, I kind of got. When I was there, it didn't really click. I just thought it was like politics and shit. But then I looked and I'm like, yeah, these kids were a little bit more talented than me. They had a little bit more of the measurables, so like the height, the length, all that stuff. So I understood after I left the program. So.
Yeah, but that's kind of motivated you in the future because I know you've obviously improved a lot.
I appreciate that, Teej. Yeah, then leaving the Colts, I didn't know about the AFL. I was just going to coach. I was actually working at Tim Hortons, and a couple of the Wolfpack guys would come through every day with flyers being like, here's a place to come play. They saw my Colts hoodie. They saw I was a big guy, and they thought, we could use you. I went to the Pack for 2 years in 2019 and the 2021 season. Won the AFL final against you and the Bucks, Teej. It's probably one of my favorite games to date.
Yeah. Oh, great game. I love being reminded about it all the time too.
And then just with going to the indoors with the Pack and seeing not many linemen and, you know, having a couple injuries in 2019 and 2021, I didn't think that, you know, it'd benefit me to go there, to go back to the Pack. And I saw the Irish had like at least 6 linemen, and I was like, done. I'm going to go there. And I thrived last year, in my opinion. Brent actually said that he believes I was robbed of an all-star nod. And, you know, that's what motivated me going into this year with, I just want to be named as an all-star, and I want to be recognized as the Irish's offensive lineman of the year. So those are my goals going into this year. But yeah, that's my football life so far.
You know what? And I'll back this up. You made my all-star list. And I think Omari and I have talked about this before, but we're going to have an in-depth conversation. Probably actually we're going to have Kurt Howland on soon. Kurt is a wealth of AFL knowledge, and I'm very excited to do that. Probably try to record with him this week when we try to lock that down. But we will be talking about that and how we can fix. I've got some pretty clear ideas on how we fix the all-star selections because I believe that those things matter to people. And you're not the first person. In fact, there's been a lot of people on here who have talked about their goals of becoming an all-star. And I think that it's watered down right now where it's not done the right way. And people do look forward to this. So, you know what? You did make my list. I agree. You deserve that. And hopefully we'll fix that this year. So it's correct. So thank you for that.
One part I want to add to that, Josh, you know, I definitely know. I know your story from Colts because that's where we met through Colts. Because I believe we played together for 3 years. Yeah, because I think it became my 3rd year, and I know it's always tough for new guys to come in, and it's I know we spent some good time together because I guess when it was your first year, is my second year, and again like. Yeah, got to we spent some hours there on the scout team, everything, and you know we're working our way up. But it was just a place where I got to really know you, and as well when I heard you weren't going back for your 4th year, I was like, man, like it's tough because I see you put all the work in because that's the tough thing now where kids will put the work in because that's what you're told, like, hey, put the work in, you see results, go from there. But I remember when I reached out to you about the Wolfpack, I was like, hey man, I want you to come out, get a love of the game again, and feel that spark. And I feel like that's a big chunk of reason for maybe a lot of players who come from other programs that may have lost that spark. But just explain how either Wolfpack or Irish or just like AFL in general help reignite that like love of football again.
Yeah, well, so it's a different league. Like, just to throw it out there, like guys listening that may not know what this league's about, it's just guys who want a ball. And if you come from a program like the Colts or U of A, or even come from high school and you have a little bit of talent, you will play. And like they recognize that, and it's a great way to like really build that confidence back to be like, okay, well, I knew I could play and start at a different level, but now I'm going against grown men. And it's kind of like that's what built it back, because I'm like, I'm playing against guys double my age in some instances, and I'm doing well. So, that really helped build the confidence that, and helped me realize I know I am who I am, and I know who I am in this game. And yeah.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate you. And I appreciate you on the field, and we've kind of gotten to know each other a little bit over the last couple of years. So I'm looking forward to battling week 1 with you.
That's a game that's circled on my calendar.
Yeah, absolutely. That's gonna be a fun one. Marshall, and I'm gonna get you to pronounce your own last name because I'm not gonna try to butcher it here. But Marshall, go ahead. Your football story, kind of what brought you to the AFL, and how you pronounce your last name.
So my last name is actually just Taylor. It's spelled very weird, but
yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah. So no worries on that end. Yeah. But my football story really starts. I was about 5 years old. My dad signed me up for football, the community team, the Mavericks. I wasn't quite tough as a kid, so he's like, throw him in football and he'll figure it out from there. So started playing Mavericks. Played with some really, really great players. We always had a good team. Like, it was just like that was kind of the dynamic of Mavericks at the moment, just a really good football program. I eventually naturally went to high school, played for St. Francis. I was never really that good growing up, so it was really when I got out of high school, I kind of grew quite a bit. So I had a really good season playing corner. I actually went all-star, and that was a big thing for me. It was quite an experience for sure. Playing for St. Francis, you learned a lot. From there, I kind of went through some injuries, and I couldn't play at that level anymore, so I switched to a Div 3 school. From there, I kind of, going from Francis, a pretty prominent like football program, like really established, to Div 3 school was pretty, I played very well at a Div 3 level. So I got a scholarship to UBC. It was very partial. I went out there for like a tryout and kind of like their spring camp. And from there, one of my injuries, I broke my leg. I had a tibia-fibia break, and then I had a partial to ACL tear. So that kind of just ended football for me for a very long time. So came back home, played flag football. I couldn't really give up football because it was such a big part of my life for so long. And I was playing flag one day, and someone comes up and was like, "Hey, you ever play like football before?" And I was like, "Yeah, for a very long time." And they're like, "Well, you still want to play?" And that was CD from the Wolfpack. So if you don't know CD, he's quite the recruiter. So,
yes.
Yeah.
No, CD, yeah.
And that led to my my first year with the Wolfpack. I played running back with Tyler. He mentored me. I had in my opinion, a pretty good first year in the AFL from not playing football for like 7 years. I think that was a pretty good start. I got Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. And then over the off season, I started training with some of the guys from the Irish. And, I was very thankful they invited me to their indoors, and I was able to, go play for the Irish this year. And that was a great transition. And that's kind of my football story. So I play running back for the Irish now.
Yeah. Did you say that? Did you say that you played corner?
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's
crazy. Here's my question: could you still do it?
I played the Wolfpack. I played half For sure. I can still play corner or half. So I think the last game I had 10 tackles against the Irish, believe it or not. So
okay. So you
that's
did play
fun.
D. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. So I
Yeah,
played a little bit of both
I
ways.
just remember you as a bulldozing running back last year, so that's just funny for me to picturing you playing corner. Is like, I mean, I'm a corner, and we don't look the same. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I put on some weight. Yeah,
you're a little
yeah,
thicker than me. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
totally.
Omar, you got anything for Marshall before we move on?
I was just gonna make a point there to anytime in I guess in AFL or when we play we're on the same flag team. Anytime Marshall goes corner, I'm like, all right, put the clamps on, and you know, those that believe always playing running back, like Marshall has some great technique. Like he's definitely fundamentally sound. So those like to underestimate him. You know, he can put the clamps on. So that's one thing where in the group chat we're just saying, you know, who's going to clamp up this year and everything. So
the jams work really well when you're like 40 pounds heavier than the receiver. Trust me.
Yeah. Cool, man. I appreciate that. All right, moving on. Our last member of the Irish. This is a guy I've personally played against for a long time. I have a lot of respect for in his football life. But Ty Bissett, welcome to the show, and please tell us your football story and your long AFL story.
Hey guys, thanks for having us on here. So this will be my 19th year playing football. So I'm from Grand Prairie. Kind of did my standard, like your 3 years Pee-wee, Bantam in high school, playing receiver mainly through all of those, and kind of made the switch to quarterback last year at Bantam, and then the last 2 years of high school. And then after that, had an option to go play with the Edmonton Huskies in junior, but decided to just stay home and just work a little bit. And also I kind of heard about the AFL and the Grand Prairie Drillers, and had a guy, Simon Fow, who was one of the top receivers in the league for a while, and right around 2010. And he had invited me to come out to practice and come play a little bit in 2010. And I ended up playing just one game in 2010. And then 2011 was my first full year with the Drillers, and I was playing receiver opposite of Simon. And we actually went undefeated that year, which is surprising. I know it's shocking that Grand Prairie had a really good team back then, but we went undefeated. We ended up playing the Wolfpack in the regular season in a crazy game. We ended up scoring the last minute and then getting a 2-point conversion to, I think it was like 51-50 was the end score. And we ended up getting home field advantage for the playoffs, and then played the Wolfpack in the finals, and ended up getting spanked 38-14, I believe. And yeah, that was a tough loss in that one. And then 2012, our quarterback, Nate Aldred, went down with a bad back injury, and he had to retire from football. So for 2012 and 13, we kind of had a scramble of different quarterbacks and people, including myself, playing a little bit. And then finally in 2014, I took over as quarterback and played 2014, 15, and then 16. It was a pretty rough couple of 3 years. Every road game we only had max 15 guys, sometimes only 12, and having to play quarterback and safety both ways and special teams. It was definitely took a toll on your body, and I ended up tearing my ACL in 2016 against the Wolfpack, and then kind of it was about a full year before I had surgery. So then I kind of rehab took quite a while, about 2 years to fully fill my leg mass to kind of get to 100%. And then at that time it was 2020, and I moved to Airdrie, and then I just knew that there's the Airdrie Irish football team, and then decided to come back out and play with them. And they had a quarterback ready to go, so I just decided to go switch to the safety position, and I've been with them ever since.
Yeah, and 2012, it's crazy that you and I have been in this league for so long. Is that 2012 and 2011 and 2010, Grand Prairie wasn't just a good, like, you guys were unbelievable, but it wasn't just like you were unbelievable then. Like, that Grand Prairie team would be a top team today. And excuse me, there, I got a frog in my throat. You know, what you mentioned, Simon Fow, and you mentioned Nathan Aldred, and those are two of the greatest players to play in the AFL. And, you know, having played against both those guys, because I was playing corner back then exclusively, and having to go against Nathan and Simon was incredibly challenging. And Nathan was impossible to sack. You'd think you'd have him, and somehow he'd get out of absolutely everything. He had an unbelievable arm. Didn't he win? He won a national championship for the Huskies, didn't he?
Yeah, I think it was 2005, and they had like J.R. LaRose.
That's
Grant
right.
Shaw, a bunch of they had a lot of studs on that team.
Yeah, Grant Shaw, who ended up being a kicker in the CFL, was actually an all-Canadian DB in junior. So but then he ended up being a kicker in the CFL. So yeah, those Grand Prairie teams were great. I remember that 2011 year. You had a what was that coach's name? He was a funny dude, Travis or something like that.
Trevor Pritchard.
Trevor Pritchard. Oh man, that guy would just he would just shit talk people all game long. It was so funny. And like, he was obviously a good coach. And you guys made those shirts that year to fundraise for the national championship. And then unfortunately, you guys got beat by the Wolfpack, but those Grand Prairie teams were something else. So thanks, Ty. Appreciate that. Omar, you got anything for Ty?
I want to ask Ty here now, with him being a big voice on the defense and the stand. Because I want to ask Cold Lake this question, and I want to bring this to Irish. And you're definitely, Ty, one of the voices, one of the leaders on defense. What are the standards like at Irish practice, and what are you guys doing to help elevate the culture and everything? Because defense is always something now where I feel like for Irish, everyone looks at the offense. You got Josh Williams, Jacob Williams, Marshall, Ty, especially this year now with all the added weapons. Everyone looks at the defense, at the offense being star-studded. On the defense, you guys are very well fundamentally coached. I know that goes to Anton as well, but you being a player on the field, what are the standards like? What do you guys hold each other to? And with you being a voice there, what is it that you bring and like to bring out of the guys?
Honestly, it starts Coach Antoine's been a great leader, helping everything, just keeping everything organized and making sure that we're on schedule at all times, and everyone's not lollygagging and fucking around, and just making sure everyone's just making sure they're going 1-0 every rep and every day, and just focusing on their job. And honestly, having a full coaching staff in different position groups definitely been able to, I think, help all of us kind of get better and hold each other accountable. Because with my years of drillers, from 13 to 16, we had 16 to 15, we didn't have any coaches. So it was very hard to get guys to practice. And you can't really, you're going into games with zero practice at all. And it's very hard to kind of hold anyone accountable. And this practice is all over the place. And so it kind of just starts having coach, kind of keeping everyone on par, and then just us as individuals just kind of holding each other accountable and making sure that we're just focused within the 2 hours we get each week for practice for the game. It's very huge, but I feel we do a really good job. Everyone just kind of working together as a team.
Nice. That's awesome. And here's one question I got for you. I just thought of, one-on-one time. It's in Irish practice. As one-on-ones, you versus the receiver. Which receiver are you calling out? As not as on the field, but all right, who's gonna be the guy to really match it with you well and really challenge you to be better?
Honestly, right now, we just got with Vardo coming over from the Wolfpack. It's for the last couple of indoors. It's definitely been awesome going against him on one-on-ones, and it's pretty much everyone. We've had quite a few new guys come out for receiver, and it's kind of just awesome to kind of see that happen. And it's you want to play against the best. You don't want to. You want to get better. So whether you're getting beat on one, you're kind of always learning and picking yourself up and just focusing on the next rep.
That's the thing about one-on-ones too, right? The offense, and I try to tell my DBs this all the time, it's you should lose every rep when you do one-on-ones. I actually hate one-on-ones. As a DB, I'd much rather do 2-on-2s, right? Because one-on-ones is there's just nothing else there, and you're reacting to an open field. And so I think for DBs it's great though, because what ends up happening is the games become easier, right? When practices are harder than the games, one-on-ones, you're never ever in football actually facing a one-on-one with no help anywhere, right? It's just so rare. So to be able to try to do that in practice, if you win reps, that's huge. So, and then calling out the guys like Bardo, and that's how he gets better, and that's how you get better, and that's why good teams are good teams. Is because Cold Lake said it when we had them on last week. Unfortunately, last year the league wasn't as strong around it, so the best competition they got was in practice. Now I think that's going to be a lot different this year, because I think we've got 4 legitimate championship contenders, so that should be really exciting. we're going to move into some kind of like lightning round questions here, guys. We've got about 20 minutes left, so we're doing good for time. But I'll kind of I'll ask kind of I'll start with Marshall, then I'll go to Ty, and then Anton, and we'll ask the questions. But of course, if anyone wants to say anything on that, like I said, just interrupt and jump on in. So the first one I'll ask to Marshall would be the Irish's biggest area that you're looking to improve from last year.
I mean, I think like we were so close last year to being in such a great spot to put us in a national or in a championship competitive game. I think where we're trying to improve is, kind of like the mental toughness, like going 1-0, like, doesn't always necessarily mean like just in football. It means showing up to practice. It means like, putting in the effort, stretching, like being hydrated. Like those things are overly important, especially when you're playing a team like Cold Lake. They're a great team, right? You got to be prepared mentally, like physically, like before the game. It's not just like, winning that rep. It's, winning everything before and putting yourself in the best position to win that game. And, that's something we definitely need to focus on this year. But I think we've addressed that culturally, and, we're looking to bring that forward this year for sure.
Yeah, I'll just jump in, Teej, as well. One of the things is, ever since I've been a coach, is one thing that we look at is, always have a theme of what I want the season to look like. So last season, and the guys know this, is I kept saying we had an opportunity to do something special, and we did, right? Obviously, we want to be way more competitive in the championship game, but that's where you either have those moments either break you down or you're able to break through with motivation. This year, going into the season, Marshall alluded to this, is the theme is for us is toughness. To be physically tough, to be mentally tough, which a lot of people hear. But one thing that I've really introduced this season is, how are we emotionally tough? Right. So we've incorporated some of those things into practices already. So what happens when you're on a bad day, you're having the worst day at practice or whatever? But you still need to make a play. How are you emotionally tougher to become 1-0 to make the play that we need to? So that's kind of one of our biggest focuses this year, is really that toughness theme for 2023.
I think you're doing a really good job. All you guys are really selling the Irish. If I wasn't committed to the Bucks, you kind of almost make me want to go. It sounds like it's a really what football should be, which is, I get really annoyed when people say that the AFL is a beer league or a rec league, because it's not. And there's no such thing as beer league or rec league football. Like, you can die playing this sport. So it's
what?
It makes me happy to hear that you guys are treating this like a university program. That's kind of what the gist I'm getting out of this. It's a bunch of guys that are willing to commit, that are willing to come to practice, that are willing to put the work in, that are willing to sacrifice for each other, that are willing to keep each other accountable. But you all also sound really humble. And I think again, one of the main reasons I want to do this podcast is, like, I've never actually had a full-on conversation with Marshall or I mean, Ty and I have known each other a long time, but it's cool to hear this kind of aspect. So one of the questions later was going to be sell your team, but I think you guys are doing a really good job of that, of selling the Irish here. Go ahead, Omari. You had something.
Yeah. And Anton, I know, coming from Dinos, I know you come from the Dinos is a great program and has some great coaches there, and you were there around the era of Coach Nil. And my question for you now is, do you try and emulate some of the stuff that Coach Nil did through your time there, or what are some coaches that really impacted your style of coaching that you now implement?
Yeah, so there are 4 gentlemen that have really influenced me. Actually, Coach Nil being one of them. Anyone who's known Coach Nil and whatnot, he's one of the best in the country. And I had the privilege to, learn from him. He would be the toughest to you on the field or on national TV, but behind the doors, he's your biggest cheerleader. He did it in a tough way. So Coach Nil definitely kind of had with that toughness and that focus and attention to detail. That's something that I took from Coach Nil. Currently, Coach Harris, he was our linebacker and defensive coordinator at the time. I take parts from him in terms of, having that calm demeanor, where I've never seen Coach Harris, doesn't matter what's happening on the field, he's never lost it. And I take some of those pieces of him from that calmness aspect. And then Coach Sam Stambini, he was probably the best coach I've ever had. It's unfortunately we lost him a few years back, and that was probably one of the worst days of my life losing coach, but I always do a lot of things that, emulate what coach has already taught to me and what he did for me is, there's something about, football doing a lot for us. But one of the things, whether doesn't matter where you come from, coach gave me a home. And I take that aspect very seriously in terms of bringing that want to know mentality to this program. But also, one of the things that was always been with the Irish is called ODM, one team, one mission. And the one team aspect is everyone here is a family. This is kind of a home for you. It's not kind of, but it is a home for you. And that one mission is to go want to know every day. And as Marshall alluded to, it's not just being on the field and the wins and W's. There's a lot more to that. And I really take that from Coach Sam Savini as well. And then Coach Sean Stewart, I've played with him or coached with him for a while, and I still coach them down in high school. Just the attention to detail and creativity in terms of what you can bring to a program. So those four gentlemen have really influenced to what my coaching style is today.
Nice. That's awesome to hear. And I know I know that's one thing now. Whenever I look at playing, I know because I've actually played against you. I think in my very first game as Airdrie Irish, I remember there was a tackle where I think it was you and Andreas like leaving up on the sideline, like first play, like welcome to AFL football. I thought it was quite fun. But as well, anytime I play Airdrie, it's like, okay, like who are we gonna be going against, scouting report and everything. And I'm like, okay, like as great as the players are they on the field, they're led by an even greater man with yourself. And I'm like, okay, like I always feel like it's that you're like the Bill Belichick of the league, where I'm like, okay, he's gonna have a great package, he's gonna have a great defense's game plan to bring out, and his guys are gonna be able to implement it. And that's always one aspect that I've always look at when, I guess for me, going against you guys this year and other years, I'm sure other teams too, but you just can't be slept on with what you bring to the team.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you. Like I said, I never try to be, like some of the NFL greats. I just try to do my job going 1-0 and to be myself. So, and to be the best for the players in the program.
Awesome. Thanks, Anton. I appreciate that a lot. You speak well, and like I said, you're really selling your team really well. So that's awesome. And Ty, I'm going to ask you this one. What are your teams from a team's perspective? What are your expectations for the year? And of course, obviously winning a national championship is everyone's, but outside of that, what are you looking to get out of this season with your team outside of winning?
I think I think communication is definitely the main part for both offense and defense, because you definitely, once you know what you're doing and you everyone's on the same page, everything just moves a lot faster and a lot easier. So I think having defense and knowing what we're doing pre-snap, just kind of even adjusting on the fly depending on different audibles and formations, just kind of having everyone on the same page and having the offense on the same page, whether it's audibles on that side, and just being able to just kind of have a quicker flow on offense and defense. And I think that's just going to take everyone to the next level.
Yeah, and I know you guys have a lot of physical players on defense. I know even in 2021 when the Bucks won the championship, and you guys weren't obviously you were still building up. But I remember I think we saw you game 3 that year, something like that, and that was the most sore I've ever been after a game, and I was getting jammed every single play by this like guy who was a halfback, but probably should have been like a D end or something like that. Like he was so wide and his reach was so long, and it was actually quite frustrating. I'm not going to lie. So I look forward to that this year. I'm sure you won't switch that up anyway, but that's okay. Josh, let's go to you. I'll ask this question to you. Cause you've played with the Pack and now you've played with the Irish. You kind of have a little bit of experience with both kind of fans and communities, but the Irish fans, the Airdrie community, how are they? How do you feel being there? What are you guys doing in the community to help Airdrie? Like being a part of a small town like that is really cool. I know being in the Red Deer area. So speak about the community, speak about the fans a little bit.
Sure. The fans, they bring it every game. Like it's always packed. Like if you go to an Airdrie Irish game, your quarterback better be loud to the center. He's not going to hear the snap, in my opinion, when we get our defense on the field. They're very supportive. The community loves us. We're in the paper, win, loss, draw, whatever, every week. It's an amazing atmosphere. We do work with Atlas Brewing, whether it's Super Bowl parties or just random get-togethers to help promote, our beer, the Pine After, or to promote their business in general. They're always looking to open their arms to any of us coming in and helping enhance anything. And then I think this year we're doing something with the food bank in Airdrie to like just to like be security or whatever and help just like bring awareness to there's help in Airdrie. There's like other ways, and yeah, we're just trying to help build in that community aspect, and it seems to be working out. Like we got the mayor's attention too in Airdrie. She gets us like publicity all the time, and it's just a great atmosphere to be around. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know, having played there for a number of years, I've seen it really grow, and I follow the newspaper articles, and I actually love Airdrie. Like the town itself is just really nice. You got some nice golf courses down there. I did a couple of those last year before our game. I had this like thing where last year where I was like golfing before every football game. So like when we came to play with the pack, I went golfing before the game. So and then it poured rain too. I was like, oh man, that's terrible. But yeah, no, I think the cool thing about being a part of a small town is the impact you can actually have on the community. And I know the Bucks here, and we're going to have the Bucks on next week, but we do a lot of work in our community all over Central Alberta. Actually, it's kind of nice being in Red Deer because we have a lot of communities around us. But Airdrie is kind of the same thing. And I think you guys have the ability there to just create true football fans. Like we talk about this all the time, but we get a lot of family and friends that come to the games, but it's really nice when you realize, hey, they don't have anyone who's playing. They don't know anyone. They're just like, wow, this is a great product. I want to come out and watch these guys play on a Saturday evening or Saturday afternoon or whatever it might be. And I think that's what's so powerful about the AFL is we are entertaining. And this year, especially with all the talent that's coming in, it's just we're on the uprise, and I know Airdrie's kind of leading that charge. So
Can I add something, Teej, as well?
Course.
One thing that we've also did is, from a board perspective and recruitment, is we actually are very in touch with the high schools in Airdrie. I think I've talked to a few players in the league, and a lot of stories that Josh said is there's a lot of talent that sometimes just gets lost in this chasm of they're not sure where to go, if it's junior or youth sports or pro and whatnot. And we're looking to do a really good job of trying to fill that gap to showcase for the community that there's a third option, and keeping it local. We do want to keep it as local as we can. Yeah, we have a few guys from Calgary, absolutely. That will just naturally happen. But we've actually made an emphasis this year to reach out to all three high schools. We know the head coaches personally, have them guest coach at our indoors as well, and really just try to integrate the football community to make it not 3 or 4 different teams, but just one.
That's what, and I forget about that all the time, but I think you guys have, I know you've got 2 really good football programs, and George McDougall and Burt Church are always kind of putting together good teams. They also have good basketball programs down there. Is there 2 or 3 high schools in Airdrie?
There's 3. There's WH Croxford as well. So
that's right.
And they had a really good season. So we just had a meeting with their head coaches and some of their seniors. We presented to them the other day just to introduce the league and our program and understand what we're about with one team, one mission, and going 1-0 every day. And again, as Josh mentioned, we've had the mayor, both councilwomen have come out to the game, sharing all of our stuff on social media, coming to our year-end events and to our events. So we're really starting to see the community kind of take us in, and we want to give back to that. And just with our partnership with Atlas Brewing, we wanted to showcase some of our award winners internally last year. So we have our own brand of beer cans with them, with players on them, and showcasing their stories, which is exactly where you want the program to be.
Yeah. And I think, that's the mayor thing is super cool, because obviously that is a very big exposure. And I think you're exactly right. Going to the high schools is so important because, Omari, almost everyone we've talked to on here at some point was like, someone told me about the AFL, and I was like, what? There's a league, right? Like, how often have we heard that? And it's like, if people know about this, and they're done playing football when they're 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, there's an option out there. I remember that AFL thing, let's go give that a go. Then they show up and they're like, wow, this is awesome. There's 50 guys at practice, we're really good, it's competitive football, and people just want to keep doing it, obviously. So that's just really good planning up by you guys, and a really good job of building that. Omar, you got anything else for these guys?
I want to ask I know last time we had this, the last two calls went a little spicy, but I want to open the floor to anyone here who has any call outs, players, teams that they if you want to spice things up at all, but it doesn't need to be like you're like a defensive or offensive call out, but just say, hey, you know what, I'm preparing for you, ready for you, looking forward to competing against you? Is there anyone that you're looking forward to competing to, or any individuals? Doesn't need to be derogatory or anything like that. Just letting the other person know, hey, I'm excited to see you.
I could probably touch on that, Omari. I have July 15th circled on my calendar for sure. A little star next to it too, so you better be ready.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'll be ready for that one.
That's Black Irish. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
actually, Teej, for myself, I'm actually looking forward to seeing you guys week one. You know, having Brandon Lee, Ben, who I'm actually pretty close with, and Xavier, it's always good to see you guys. And, you know, it's definitely a challenge with the passing attack you guys bring. So I know myself and Ty have always talked about it. It's a great challenge for us. So we're looking forward to week one. Absolutely. It's always good. It's like the competition's great, the physicality of it. You know, it's been really good. And then your coaching staff there, it's always a pleasure to play you guys. So we're looking forward to week one. Absolutely. Should be a good
100%.
Yeah, I'm glad it's in Red Deer too, because I'm not gonna lie to you, and this is my next kind of question. I hate your grass field. So I saw something that Airdrie's working on a turf field. Is that true?
Yep, you got it.
What's the plans for that?
So we're still working with City Council. This year we'll still be at your field at Genesis, but then in 2024 we'll be working with them probably closer to the end of the season in terms of what does that transitory period look like for us. But funding has gone really well. With the community members, we're trying to continue to ask the question, how does the Airdrie Irish support that? It's led by a couple of the guys at George Mack and some very prominent community members. But we're looking to say if there is something we can help with, we're ready to stand by and, you know, help with what we need to. But it's exciting for the community.
Yeah, and I should clarify that. As far as grass, I hate grass fields in general. Okay, it's not just the Airdrie grass field. Just personally, I much prefer turf for a million different reasons. I feel slower on grass. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's mentally. I don't love grass. Now, the park itself is beautiful, like the lake there or whatever that is behind it, and the blue track. Like I love that. You just got to get it. If you could get a turf field, imagine how beautiful that could be. But and this is also, so I live in Sylvan Lake, and I actually ran for town council a year ago when we had our elections. And one of my main reasons for running for town council, besides trying to get rid of the vaccine mandates, was to build a turf field in Sylvan Lake, because we don't have one, and we don't really even have a good grass field. And my thought process is, look, with the thing with turf fields is they will pay for themselves, because they're low maintenance once they're put in there, and then you charge people to rent them, and they're going to pay for themselves and then just make money. Especially for a town like Airdrie or Sylvan Lake specifically, because Sylvan Lake's kind of in the middle of the two hubs in Edmonton and Calgary. And if you put a turf field in here, we could host any provincial or national event, and people would flock here because we're already a tourist town. And if we actually had a field to support, provincial, lacrosse, football, field hockey, soccer, all the things you can run on a turf field. So I just love turf fields. I think every community should have one. I think that if you do it right, they'll pay for themselves, and you'll just be making money hand over fist once they paid for themselves. So I'm glad to hear that with Airdrie, because I think your community is beautiful, and I think a turf field would do really well there. The other thing I have to say, because look, and I was like, do I bring this up? I'm like, I have to bring it up because I've brought this up for like 10 years or however long you guys have been in the league, since 2015.
Let me guess, jerseys?
I hate your jerseys. Okay. Now listen to me. Just hear me out, because
I'm listening.
because here's the thing. I like your white jerseys. I can't stand the dark green. And I feel like if you do redesign your jerseys and you made them more like a lime green or a lighter green with like a light gold, like you could do so well. And maybe I'm the only one. I don't know.
No,
I just don't like the dark green. I don't think you guys look athletic in dark green. I feel like it's just like, it rubs me the wrong way. I might have been playing for the Irish in a previous year, but the jersey, I just couldn't do it.
Tell me how you really feel.
Well, you guys don't want to call out anyone, so I'm calling out your damn jerseys. Okay.
That's fine. That's fine. I appreciate it. Next time they said when we go through redesign, maybe you'll be the first to call. Let me put it that way.
I'll help you.
Teej as consultant, jersey consultant, AFL.
Well, I obviously don't. Obviously, I know you guys aren't taking that person or anything like that. It's just like my own personal opinion. But anything else we got for you, Omari? You guys have been great. I think there was one thing.
I think that's everything that we got here. If
Yeah.
anything that you guys want to mention or even plug away, because guys will hear this and you guys want to let guys know about your next indoor session.
Yeah, our next indoor session is March 11th at 6 p.m. Genesis Center, the indoor turf field. Please bring runners if you're planning to come. They do not do well with cleats.
And they're free.
And they're free.
You're cracking a joke at me or something about that one?
No, not at all. Not at all.
No.
Not
Maybe
at
that's
all.
a call out there, but
Absolutely. No, I think that's really it. The only other thing, and more just to highlight our league, I think is super important. Just to say this publicly, but congratulations to Rashawn Provo for signing over in Switzerland. Like that, I've had a lot of good conversation with that man, and I'm very happy for him. So I just want to. It's great for him and his family, but it's also just great for the league to showcase what this league's all about and why I decided to be around this franchise. And to all of our players, like it's truly something that I'm really fortunate to have. So I'm really looking forward for the season.
Yeah, totally. When we echo that statement here, like congrats, Rayshawn. I've been following his Instagram stories. Rayshawn, I know you're listening to this, so please keep posting all your beautiful Switzerland pictures and keep us all posted on your journey. And we're going to have Rayshawn on the podcast soon, hopefully, to talk about his experience. And he, as you just said, I've had great conversations with him. He does a lot for the football community. He's reffing, he's playing, he's been all over the place playing football, and honestly, just a genuinely good dude and someone I enjoy playing against, someone I enjoy speaking to. So I'm excited to have him on. So, and you're right, it's so good for the league, and that's what we can do for people. Like that's the power that this league has, and the better we get, the better the players we get, the better teams we get, the better programs we get, like Airdrie building up. You're just enhancing football in Alberta at an unbelievable level, and you can just keep going up, right? Like you having that team in Airdrie, you're giving people opportunities to play. How many people have already come on this podcast and sent their appreciation to the AFL? The AFL means everything to me. I've met so many amazing people along the way, and I've had so many amazing conversations. And like the AFL has been a life-changing experience for me. It literally life-changing. My life would be completely different without the AFL. And so that's the power that you guys have in Airdrie to build such a quality team and keep that program up and giving people opportunities and lifetime memories that they couldn't have. So I really appreciate you guys taking time on Sunday morning to come out and do this. I'm going to go over it and hopefully get it out later tonight. But really thank you guys for coming out. And Omari, finish us off.
Yeah, appreciate you guys coming out to this and giving the league what they want. And for those who you want to find us here, you can hear us on all your local mainstay podcast platforms: Apple Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts. We'll be on YouTube as well. Just giving this, we'll be all over the place. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe, comment. Anything that helps drives with the algorithm. We're definitely looking to expand our reach here and do some cool things with that and put back into the league. So appreciate all the support we've been getting, and the Discord has slowly been growing. We're slowly trying to work out the kinks with that to really make sure it's flawless. And so we're looking forward to seeing how that can grow and be another channel for the league. And looking forward to next week. I believe next season preview is Red Deer, correct?
Yeah, we're gonna do Red Deer next week. I'll reach out to the people we want to have on here today, and we're gonna try to get Kurt Howland on this week too and do an episode. Nice. So we'll have a bunch of episodes coming out. And I want to say quickly before we leave too, Omari kind of touched on it. We're looking to kind of expand the podcast, and so we've been getting great feedback from everyone, and we really appreciate that. And we realize there's kind of an appetite for football in Alberta, and so we're going to look to also partner with the high school leagues, with the women's leagues, and do kind of episodes on that. Once the AFL season's over, maybe transitioning into covering high school football. We got a lot of coaches in the AFL that play. So I think there's a lot we can do. We can have high school players on. We can have high school coaches. We can talk about the weekly rankings that ASAA puts out for high school. So we're really looking to become kind of an all-in football podcast for Alberta as well as AFL. So look forward to that. If anyone has any ideas to kind of help us grow, we're always looking to hear. And again, thank you guys, Anton, Josh, Ty, and Marshall for coming on. And we'll see you in a few weeks, June 3rd.
For sure. Yep. Sounds good, boy.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, boys.
Thanks, boys.